Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm True Powers Mind, the host of TPIM SR Live. Today's date, August 22nd, 2019, the year of our Lord. Boys and girls and everything in between. A lot of stuff's been going on in the news, eh? So let's take a look. I really want to talk about this right here, right off the bat. Hold on. Bam. The football player. Chick apparently can kick a football and she wants to get paid for it in the NFL, just like anybody else would, right? But my problem is if sex doesn't matter, then why is everything in this culture based around it? Meaning that you go to a job, you have to put what gender you are. You go to get a state ID license, you have to put what gender you are. We have men's sports, we have women's sports. We have men bowling, we have women bowling leagues. I mean, everything's divided on gender. Why is that? Honestly, why is that? Is the performance of the average woman on par with the performance of the average man? Without enhancements, without um, specialized training. I'm just straight off the womb. And then the real question is, what does it mean to be human? Does it mean it has to be based upon your physical or intellectual behavior or strength or power? Or is it truly because you are what you are? And we show respect and love towards each other. Now, hopefully this, I need to check. Yeah, it's working. Good. I want to, hold on. I'm going to call up Brother Cobra and just see what's cracking. What the fuck? Okay, hold on. Man, I really have to get back on the ball, y'all. I have been, I've been on hiatus for too long. Let me get this phone number up. Okay. Okay. Oh, might want to switch it to headset.
Hello?
Hello. I was trying to reach. I think I got the wrong number. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think I got the wrong number on that one. All right, we're going to. I'm going to take a moment here to recalibrate my phone. All right. Now, oh, what to talk about? So much stuff going on. I just saw that. I just happened to saw this the sports thing. Oh, now looky here, right there. ABC Bachelor airs first same-sex romance. See, the first generation accepts it, the next generation does it. And this is progressing quicker than ever before. I need to jump over here 1 second. We're going to go here. Oh, I don't have guess I don't have access to Facebook stuff. Let me see. Oh shit. Hold on, y'all. I can't even get the whatever. There was something on my feed here I was trying to get to. Here it is.
Brussels. I'm in Carmel, California, and it's broadcast number 547, May 30th, 1982. I had a shock this week. It was quite a surprise because it came with absolutely no warning. And I got a call. I was in Los Angeles from the station manager at KLRB. The show was canceled. I've been on there 11 years, and the station was sold about 2 months ago, and the last station manager left 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the business salesman and a new team came in, and about 3 weeks ago.
Oh my God, you can tell old girl is a straight up amateur, can't you? I mean, she's just going on with the backstory that has no relevance to anything pertaining to hopefully the Knights of Malta.
The woman who was in charge of the station was there to greet me, and she was very friendly, and she knew me from doing shows with Victor Bach up at KOMY. And I said, well, how many heads are falling around here? And she said, oh, your show is great. It's wonderful. We want to do some promos. It's very positive. And they were very friendly, and the station was reorganized, and the station for the holiday. That this matter bears investigation. The concerns which you have raised are quite serious ones and merit careful attention.
Now, that's what I feel about every broadcast I do. We raise a lot of valid points. Hopefully, you guys been researching IG Furban. Hopefully, you guys been researching Goebbels. Hopefully, you guys been researching ancient civilizations, whether it be in art and culture or architecture, and actually impact on the global culture as we know it today. Because there is a global culture of Earth. Yes, we finally got one. It's called consumerism. Let's roll the tape.
I've consequently forwarded a request for biographical information on Fritz Kramer to the Congressional Research Service of the Library of Congress, and I'll let you know when I receive a response to my request. Now, that was May the 6th, and the Library of Congress could get that out in about 4 minutes on their computer. But I may be reaching to a congressman who agrees that this is a serious matter. I've reached this congressman and many others on the murder of the President of the United States. They never responded and said that was serious. I reached them on the murder of a senator who wanted to be president of the United States, and they never thought that was serious. And many issues and problems of murders and Watergates or the Dorothy Hunt plane crash, they have ignored. So I believe when I get a response from somebody who goes to the Congressional Library to pursue it and agrees that it is quite a serious issue that I've raised, that this is even more important than all the other things I've studied. And if it is important, then you can expect that they don't want me to go much further on it or don't want me to talk about it on the air. I'm going to put aside many of the news articles of the week, except 3 that I want to mention to you, and then get into an article that is the most important article I've read in a long, long time, and I want to share it with you, even if it takes 2 weeks to do, and put aside some of the things like the silly Hinckley trial and a lot of the other articles that
we'll come on, sister. Let's move it along.
Vietnam and North Korea, that the nuclear strategy will be known as decapitation, and they'll strike Soviet political and military leaders and their communication lines, and will arm and assist China in an effort to keep the Soviet forces busy off the China border, and we'll have a special operations, guerrilla warfare, sabotage, psychological warfare going on at the same time, and space would have to be exploited for American military needs. This is our National Security Council head, William P. Clark, and the plans for a lengthy war, I guess almost on every area of the globe.
Did you hear what she just said? Hey, welcome to the show, Raven. Did you hear what she just said? Let's break that down one more time because we can. I think she starts about right there.
Tax write-offs and big salaries and concealing large amounts of money. Another article this week in the paper that again relates to the important story I want to share with you is the Pentagon's strategy for a lengthy A war.
For a lengthy A war. Now, never mind you, these fools actually thought that Russia and China would be staunch enemies, constantly warring, which happens not to be the case. Good morning, sister Alexandria. I had to put the resolution of the chat room so far, it's like so tiny print. But let's continue.
It has to do with studies of President Reagan's National Security Advisor, William P. Clark, and the plans for the war, how if we decide to strike against the Soviet Union, we'll hit their allies such as Cuba, Vietnam, and North Korea, that the nuclear strategy will be known as decapitation, and they'll strike Soviet political and military leaders and their communication lines, and will arm and assist China in an effort to keep the Soviet forces busy off the China border.
And that would never work. Good morning, Sister Barbara. Glad you got up and got in here. You know, this is what I wanted to say. At the time that May was talking about this, May Brussels, this was cutting edge news. It was like the backbone of the whole Illuminati infrastructure. You know, Ronald Reagan and his yoke. Now, let's continue.
And we'll have a special operations, guerrilla warfare, sabotage, psychological warfare going on at the same time, and space would have to be exploited for American military needs.
Did she hear what she just said? Space has to be exploited for American military needs. I want to issue the Space Force. I mean, this is back in 1982, yeah. I'm dredging up all this old stuff so that you guys all see that this stuff's been around for a minute. There ain't nothing new. It might be new to you, might be news to others around you, but it's not really new. People who are really putting this nuclear war thing together, they already know the play. They already know how it's going to play out. You know that Japan has the capacity to build, I think, 8 nuclear devices within 6 months. Now, granted, in a nuclear war, that's essentially useless because by the time you can get your little resources together, your whole nation's already irradiated. But I want to put this thought in your consciousness, y'all. You can't go around the world killing people, extorting folks, and yes, vaporizing a few as well, and expect for there not to be consequences unless you annihilate all those people, consequences coming down the pike for you and yours. Let's continue.
This is our National Security Council head, William P. Clark, and the plans for a lengthy war, I guess almost on every area of the globe, that they've earmarked, and they'll fight it all at one time. Can you imagine what this is? What a big bang that's going to be. And then the story of the Pope being in England and meeting with the Anglican leaders and working for reconciliations and ecclesiastical unity. And the Joint Catholic Anglican Commission was completing 10 years of work, and they're going to issue a report. The only major obstacles to their agreements are the papal infallibility and the papal claim to primacy over all Christians. And they said, even though this is what the Vatican wants, it need not stand in the way of unity. Papal infallibility and papal claim to primacy over all Christians. And that's what the Vatican wants. And I think that's pretty well spelled out. I think the meeting of the Pope with the Anglican Church there is as important as the meeting in 1947, in August 1947, when President Truman sent messages to Pope Pius XII and guaranteed them that the U.S. would help the Catholic Church and all the forces striving for a moral world. Truman was busy in 1947 assuring Father Walsh, the vice president of Georgetown University, that the United States would combine with the Vatican, and this was described in a book as a very important step of the United States to link with the Vatican in policies. Father Welsh had claimed that the Russians wanted war and that we should get the Vatican ideas put to work. The aim of his campaign, Father Welsh, on the instruction of the Vatican was to press the United States to introduce compulsory conscription for the oncoming American-Russian war. The last few weeks I've been sharing information that I've seen in print from Admiral Byrd, now to the Vatican, to Georgetown University, dated back to 1946, 1947, that there would be conscription for the oncoming war. And after a year of Father Walsh from Georgetown working with President Truman, who was in office just a short time, there was a quasi-declaration of a Vatican-American war front, which sprung up in the United States, and the Pope and the American president exchanged letters. This is from a book, The Dollar and the Vatican, by Ivro Manhattan, and the rapprochement that was made of Harry Truman with the Vatican was a breaking ground on the admission or the description of the necessity for World War III. And now we have the Pope with the Anglican Church, and they want to combine their energies for what they call peace, which means peace without Russia. Now, the article that I do want to spend time with and the implications of these stories that I gave in the news is related to this article, is called The Men Behind the Counter-Reformation. And this article was written by Kevin Coogan, Coogin, Kevin Coogan, and it was reprinted in Jonathan Marshall's newsletter, March 31st, 1982. And on the printed sheet with this tape, I'll give you the information. This article is 4.5 pages long and 2 pages of footnotes, and I already wrote it down into 37 pages of subjects that he brought up in that one article. It reminds me of the 3 articles that I did in The Realist, where every sentence could be extended to a paragraph to explain what the sentence meant. This Kevin Coogan is a great researcher. Mr. Coogan says that a new counter-reformation is sweeping Europe, such as took place many years ago, and it's sweeping the United States, and it has the full support of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher. That's why she invited the Pope to the Anglican Church, and the Pope's visit to England was part of this movement.
Now, what's so important here? What is so important? Under Ronald Reagan tenure, the intelligentsia of the United States got a wake-up call. The wake-up call was this: as long as you come up with the cash, you don't have to go to Congress to testify. So you do as much dirt, as much backroom dealings. Basically, when we're really breaking it down, it's really helping corporations get a foothold in various countries to drain off resources, whether it's Halliburton, other BP, whoever. That's what we do. And then these generals and colonels and lieutenants and all the officers and even some of the enlistment personnel get jobs in said companies after their military service is over. That's the whole hustle. That's the whole play on the military side. On the, spy side or intelligence side, it's all about making those connections with businesses that can provide information for the organizations and future operations to come. In other words, you build a relationship with Southwestern Bell, whether it breaks up into AT&T or not, doesn't matter. You already have agents or moles or whatever you want to call embedded in these organizations. So therefore, all communications is already covered. It's been covered forever. Now it's just coming to the forefront that a lot of our devices are also spying. Well, where do you think all this information is ultimately going? And why do you think it's ultimately being allowed to be gathered? The war is already here, folks. All you people playing Pokemon Go, you helped China map out America to the T. Hope you caught them all. Because when those hypersonic missiles come a raining down, and they will, you understand this wasn't a game. It has never been a game, and it will never be a true game like that. But it is a game at the same time. And folks, we're not playing to win. Many of us are not even consciously aware that we're participants in this game. And that is to our own detriment. Let's let May continue for a little bit longer. Now I got some other stuff to break into.
With the church and Archbishop Runkle, and the whole section of the Anglican Church will capitulate to Rome. This is what he's saying in this article. That soon Catholics who support economic reforms and limit nuclear war will be called heretics. That they'll disassociate themselves from the other part of the church, and the church will call them heretics because, going back to Father Walsh, who was the man who put Senator Joe McCarthy into power, that Father Walsh was the man behind McCarthy. He was pushing for atomic bombs from the Vatican, was pushing for them in 1946-47. Father Drennan was removed from Congress. He was anti-Nixon, and at a part in the Watergate, he was driven out by the Pope, who said that you can't be political and be in Congress. But that's because he was a liberal and not a warmonger, that he made him resign from Congress. Now
that's pretty crazy there. We're going to do some random calling. It is a little early. This is why I normally like doing my shows in the evening, because most people are actually awake.
Please leave your message.
All right, well, we're not going to do that. I don't really want to call him until at least 10. Gives people time to wake up, get breakfast. But you know what? An hour early. Hold on. All right.
a professor, Gedda, Gedda, wrote a book that was published by Stanford Press in 1976. It's called Catholic Action in Italy, The Sociology of a Sponsored Organization. This Gedda incidentally backed Lyndon LaRouche for president. But Professor Gedda explains in his book that 4 centuries ago, when the Reformation came along, we had Protestantism, which means religious liberalism. And after the French Revolution, when they got rid of the monarchy, they had a self styled liberty, which isn't good for people. It gives you license to do anything you want. So in his book, he criticizes early romantic socialism of the last century and says that romantic socialism leads to dictatorship, such as free.
Hey, Sister Hilton. Welcome to the show, Sandra. This is May Brussels. Apparently, she was like a little news reporter back in the 1980s. She was breaking down a lot of information under President Reagan's administration, and really like the precursor to the situation that we got going on geopolitically. It's pretty sad that most people don't understand that a lot of the moves that are being made today were being spoken of 30, 40, 20 years ago. And unfortunately for us, those people didn't have a loud enough voice. They didn't have a broad enough audience to really impact us correctly. Boys and girls, we are headed to Doomville. I mean, choo choo, choo 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 choo, and no one's stopping it. No one's even contemplating the reality of all these mass shootings. What is the message being sent? What is really being sent? And until we come to terms with that, you would call it forgiveness, reconciliation, whatever you need to do, until we come to terms with that fact, there's just going to be more blood and more sorrow to come. But this time around, the lessons of World War II will be implemented. It's going to be extremely automated, extremely fast death. That's the lesson.
Freedom of thinking, Karl Marx, leads to the revolution in Russia and throwing out the church and the monarchy. And you can't have this kind of thinking. He says this is fatal logic. When you transform your thoughts, you transform social conditions. And now today, communism has descended from the Protestant Revolution. So that this particular Catholic thinker is again published by Stanford University, thinks that when you're liberal, yeah, you end up with the Protestants. And in order to have a strong society, you have to get back to Catholicism. Now, this particular Professor Gaeta is one of the members of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. It's long overdue, I suppose, for me to talk about the Knights of Malta, the SMOM, the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. And that's what this article is about. The church has its religious branch, and since for the past 1,000 years, the Catholic Vatican Church has had its military army with their loyalty to the Vatican, and they carried on the Inquisition and the Crusades.
And just think if Sister May there would have known about the sexual scandal. Because as she's talking in 1982, the year of our Lord, Catholic priests and bishops were getting down, tearing them little boys up, ripping them off right and left. But she'd have no clue of this. She knew about the other aspects of Catholicism pertaining to how they brutalized perhaps some of her ancestors and people. But the child raping and all that, not a clue. Nor did she have a clue that some of the people that she was mentioning on the political side of the situation were tied to those Catholic priests. Because don't forget, in 1982, who's also getting down? Well, don't forget about the Epstein crew and crowd. Oh yeah, there was a lot of stuff going down. And the fact of the matter is what she had, the nuggets of truth that she had and she put out there, it's cool. But when you plug that into the actual history, that since we have the benefit of time, then we can actually look back and see certain plays fold out. Now you see the beast that we're really dealing with.
The military group have been very strong side by side with the religious group for 1,000 years to defend the Catholic Church. And now they believe that the Reformation brought Protestantism, which brought all this liberalism. And if you don't have a war, you can't get the commies out. So they're ready to arm with the atomic bombs and so forth. And the military branch must come in and defend the Vatican. And so the Knights of Malta is the group that has been organized for this purpose. Now, I might tell you right now who are some of the members of the Knights of Malta, and almost every single one that he mentions just in this 4-page article has some tentacles. Let's not say to all the assassinations, let's say Herman Dex and the John Kennedy assassination. And here are some of the members. I'll just give you their names and then go back to the article in the order that he talks about them. One is James Angleton, the head of the counterintelligence of our Central Intelligence Agency, who is in charge of the Vatican for the CIA and for Israel for the CIA, and worked with Reinhard Gehlen, Hitler's chief of intelligence. He's part of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta of the Vatican Army. Robert Ablanalp, I'll take these in alphabetical order. Albanev is the man who has the home down off of Florida. When Richard Nixon needed help at the time, they were setting up Alger Hiss. They'd fly him down there, B.B. Raboza, to Ablanev's place. And this is where he was many times when he was president of the United States. This is the man that put up money for San Clemente, for Richard Nixon's home. This man is not seen very much. I looked him up in Who's Who and didn't even see him in there, although he's quite wealthy with his aerospray cans. But he's a member of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta and obviously was the control of Richard Nixon for many years. Richard Allen was in Germany for several years and then went to Atlanta, Georgia for 6 months. And about a half a year ago, I did tapes on Richard Allen because he came right up to the Georgetown Center for Strategic Studies and the University of Georgetown to set up this far right-wing think tank that would put Ronald Reagan into power and get ready for the warfare state. Richard Allen was an
Wow. Oh, girl, hit it right there on the head. The warfare state. Because let's face it, after Reagan, even during Reagan, we've been in conflict after conflict after conflict after conflict after conflict after conflict. Hold on. I'm going to post a link. Her name is May Brussels. Copy. I'm going to post a link to this particular video in the chat. So all you researchers out there can research this for yourselves.
Integral part of the German money that went. He was in Atlanta, and I said at the time, how could a history professor from assistant professor from Atlanta who didn't even get his doctor's degree in Germany bring this money to Georgetown? So evidently the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, that is heavily concentrated in Georgetown in Washington, D.C., has direct links to Richard Allen, who was former Security Council director. He's out the national security, but very close to Robert Vesco and other persons. I don't want to get too far off on Allen now. William Buckley formed Young Americans for Freedom, has National Review. The YAF brought in a team from Munich, Germany, who were in the Dallas-Fort Worth area when John Kennedy was assassinated and were involved in that. And of course, he's heavily involved in Watergate and integral part of the Bay of Pigs and counter espionage for years. He's a member of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. James Buckley, who is our roving ambassador and working now with the National Security Council, and Mr. Clark, a member of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. The Bilderbergers were set up. The Prince Bernhard, by a member of the Vatican, who got the money and the financing to get Bernhard to be the head of the Bilderbergers. This was set up by a member of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. William Casey, the CIA director,
William Casey, yeah. What's up, Leonard? Welcome to the show, brother. Man, oh, girls just break. She's just calling out the names, ain't she? Just breaking it down. Sovereign Military Order of Malta. Sovereign, yeah.
I said was involved with Operation Sunrise. Last week I mentioned the selling out of America. He's our CIA director now. Whose allegiance does he take? The United States or the Vatican? He is a member of this. He worked with William Donovan in the OSS. Casey worked with Reinhard Gehlen. He brought Lucky Luciano and organized crime in from Sicily and Milan and Palermo, the Italian crime syndicate, into what became the Central Intelligence Agency. William Casey is a member of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. CIA officials involved, just in this one 4-page article: William Casey, William Donovan, Reinhard Gehlen, James Angleton, and John McCone. Well, Bill Donovan, they're going to give a Donovan Award for the Knights of Malta. Donovan was put on the American Cancer Society in 1946 by Elmer Bobst. Donovan was head of the OSS that became the CIA. Elmer Bobst was the cover for Otto von Bolschwing, Adolf Eichmann's superior, and Donovan was working with Elmer Bobst, he created the presidency of Richard Nixon and catapulted him into office. Donovan and Bobst were working together from 1946 when the war was over. the American Cancer Society. Peter M. Flanagan, a Nixon aide, is a member of this sovereign military order of Malta. I emphasize the military because I'm not talking about Catholics who are doing good work. I'm not talking about Catholics who are not military, the true religious believers. I'm talking about the military branch that is willing to wage World War III and is wants to combine with the Anglican Church and take it over, that has a grand design and will use the military means and is using the top Nazis from Hitler's entire regime and coordinating them into our intelligence community. All of them are members of this organization.
Bam. Like it's been said before on the show, Nazis were Catholics. A lot of them were. That's why the integration from Nazi Hitler lover to sovereign army of Malta is just a snap. See, the beast, the game that's been played, y'all, and that is being played, and that will be played, is a game of power. You can talk what you want, you can walk how you want, but at the end of the day, when the boys come for you, when the governor, the president, the emperor, the king gives that verdict, that edict, go and get them, that's power. Unless you have that type of power, you're really not standing on nothing. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. Because of our epic failure to unite for one humanity, well, we're going to get this tribalism bullshit. We're going to be divided amongst races, amongst sexes, amongst religious ideology, amongst intelligence, physical ability. And all these differences amongst us is going to be used to ensure that those who rule us will continue to rule us. And you can put that in your good morning pipe and smoke it.
Flanagan works for the intelligence division of J. Peter Grace, the fellow I mentioned who was putting down the Puerto Ricans and the food stamps, and he was part of the ad hoc committee that was behind the murder of Allende in Chile. That's Peter Flanagan. Georgetown Center for Strategic Studies is directly linked to this group. It's set up for the military branch of the Vatican and the Catholic Church, and Center for Strategic and International Studies means planning World War III. Reinhard Gehlen was awarded the Knights of Malta immediately after World War II. It wasn't over a year. I have the date when he became one of three to get the highest honors of Knights of Malta. There's different degrees. Reinhard Gehlen was Hitler's chief of intelligence, Eastern Division, and then moved west and came to this country with Allen Dulles. John Foster Dulles' son worked with this group and with the church, along with Martin Bormann. The two of them were together and left the country, went to South America. Reinhard Gehlen got one of the highest honors, though evidently these people didn't think that Hitler and Nazi Germany and those 600 concentration camps, incidentally, I was reading that a figure there's 600. There wasn't just Auschwitz or a few that you think of that are better known. Baron Hilton of the Hilton Hotels, a member of this sovereign military order. Lee Iacocca, who was with Ford Motor Company. Now, Ford has always published violent anti-Semitic literature. When Marina Oswald first came to the United States in June 1962, she was met by Colonel Lawrence Orloff, who then went up to Henry Ford in Michigan. She was meeting with him. And as soon as John Kennedy was murdered, 2 days later, the limousine was sent up to Dearborn, Michigan, where it is today. It was reupholstered for a while for LBJ, but any area where there were bullet holes in the metal were covered up. And when it was sent to Michigan, Lee Iacocca was one of the heads working for Ford Motor Company. And I believe, I looked up who's who in America, and he's been at the Ford for a long, long time. The car that John Kennedy was in was sent up to the Ford Motor Company. Lee Iacocca then went to Chrysler, and that's beginning to go bankrupt or has gone bankrupt, on the verge of hanging in there. Member of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. Joseph P. Kennedy was a member of this military gang, but Joseph P. Kennedy was very Nazi. And in this article, they mentioned that the mistake his son John made, according to a white Russian interview about, was that John was too independent and tried to disassociate himself from the Catholic group. John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Ted Kennedy were never members of it, but their Nazi father, Joe Kennedy, was a member of the military branch, the sovereign military branch, and James Ling is a member. He's not written up in Who's Who, but this is Ling Boy, the defense people, and I'm sure there must be another volume where I can get a bio on Ling because the name is familiar. Father Walsh, of course, who was the man who created Senator Joe McCarthy so that they could release the prisoners at Malmedy, the Nazis that had worked with Hitler in the East and West and Middle and all over the globe, known killers who massacred Americans and other people. McCarthy was put in by Father Walsh, and Georgetown Clique, again, the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, and Spyro Skouras was a member. Now, these names are just in one article. Imagine a 4-page article, and details, quite a few details about this organization, and there's not very much written. There is some, but if we look for it, it's there. It's just that we've never realized, I'm sure, the importance of this, and it's just beginning to come in because these are the people that have killed John Kennedy to make Richard Nixon president of the United States when he couldn't win against him, killed Robert Kennedy through the Permindex. They're all linked to the Permindex, the Torbett document, that book that's been out for 10 years. These people are all connected to the Watergate, the dirty tricks, the assassination teams, even to the John Lennon assassination. I'll get to that, if not this week, next week. There's
Sister, that's a good question. Did she live long? Let's do a real quick Google search on her, all right? Wikipedia, May Brussels. Oh, she died in 1988, October 3rd, at the age of 66. So did she live a long life? Yeah, I guess, relatively speaking. She had 5 children. She was a host at Conspiracy. So she was like the original Alex Jones, I guess, before it was cool to be a conspiracy person. But she's busting out the facts on the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. That's for sure. And then it kind of does make sense. That's why all the records were sealed. So all those members would be dead, and then the new membership could disavow all their activities. Who could put off a, a military mission, which would be assassinating, leaders. That's a military mission for sure. And they are a sovereign army. What's up, Sister CJ? Welcome to the show. Glad you can make it. This is what we're up against. Look, man, there's a reason why leaders get clipped. And it's not necessarily to make them into a martyr. There's a reason why would-be leaders get clipped. These people have an apparatus that is functional now as I speak, that is designed to detect, infiltrate, and destroy any threat to the system. That's why I keep harping on about the spiritual thing. That's the only thing that can supersede that. You go up against these people in some sort of physical confrontation, you're getting slaughtered, homie. Straight up. Oh, I don't want to hear about that praying true power. I ain't gonna pray. And that's why we never progress. Because no, we're gonna get a little group. We're gonna get some signs. Oh, that didn't work. Well, let's just try that shit again. Man, come on, y'all. Pray with me. Use that spiritual energy. Let's focus this shit and get this done. If not, well, it really pains me, man. What, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we're going to be up here talking about another mass shooting, talking about another missile strike, potentially. Or what? Should we just do the logical thing, brothers and sisters? Just share the knowledge amongst ourselves, understand that this is going to collapse, recognize it, accept it, and somehow put together something that after the collapse, we can build something better if we survive. Because a lot of us ain't going to survive, yo. I hate to tell you. A lot of people popping the pills for whatever reason, you ain't going to make it. A lot of people who are not mentally correct, you're not going to make it. A lot of people who don't have guns or weaponry of any sort, you're not going to probably make it. So where are we at? Where are we at as a people? Where are we at as a nation? I can tell you where we're at as a nation right here. Hold on. That should be in. Hopefully, y'all can see this over here off to the side. Try to scoot her over. But where we're at as a nation is right here. The storm clouds are gathering. Now, those are actually real clouds, not like the chemtrail clouds that we be seeing in the daytime now. Uh-oh. What is this? Another, wow. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here he is. Look into the eyes right there. Right there. This is the spirit of leadership. Look at that. Eyes of hate. The satanic cult leader who loves animal sacrifices, orgies, and murder. Is that Prince Harry? Oh! Pope Francis? Huh? Benjamin Netanyahu? Oops! Donald J. Trump? What? That. You better look at that and understand what that is. That is the spirit that is dwelling within man. A spirit that loves cruelty to animals. A spirit that loves sexual deviancy. And a spirit that loves to kill other human beings. I don't care what your little point is. I don't care how you gymnastically work that out. But that's what you're up against on this stage, which we call Earth. You are all actors. You've all been scripted into this, whether you like it or not. You can say, oh, that doesn't affect me, true. I don't live around those Satan scumbags. That's not the point. You don't have to come for them, silly rabbit, because they are going to most certainly come for you. Now, babies and diapers. What's this? Babies and diapers replacing sex and drugs at Burning Man. Wow. You know, Burning Man is nothing more, for those who are uninitiated, Burning Man is a basically camp out situation that a bunch of rich people go to feel as if they're getting in touch with nature. Now they go to the most desolate part of the planet and they construct this wooden structure that at the end of this, I guess, party time, they burn. creating more CO2 and more basically ash and debris in the atmosphere. So not only are they destroying the land, it'd be different. Burning Man was called Planting Man, where all these rich fools go out to the desert with water trucks and plants, and they make artificial lakes and beautiful lush gardens in the desert. That would be awesome. But these ass wipes, no sir. They're gonna go out there, do their damn drugs, get coked out of their head, have orgies, and then at the end of said business, they're gonna light this abominable statue of wood, almost like some sort of weird sacrifice, and then they go on about their business. This is the culture of death. I've always talked about it on the show. We live in a culture that glorifies death. It worships death. Death is the validation in which power is and respect are made. And you think I'm lying? Look at your little mob leaders. Oh, you're going to respect them. You ain't going to go walking up to them acting all any old kind of way. Trust me on that. Why? Because you know that they can put your ass down like a sack of potatoes. You have better understand, folks, that we have the power. The people do have the power. But the people also have some mental and spiritual problems that separates them from the true power. This is why we have to be kind to one another. Noble words, sister. Noble words. I need to laugh, and I think you all need to too. Right here. Cop tells man not to carry dial in public after freak out. Now, what kind of man do you think these cops are talking to? I got an idea. He's gonna be, well, let's just say not melanated. Probably thin, weak, frail looking. No, hold on. Okay. A man appeared to be carrying a topless, unconscious woman. Oh no. Oh no. Now that. It's more than likely going to be a brother. Oh my God. Oh, that's a different one. Hold on. Will they at least show us a picture of the perpetrator here? No pictures. No. There is one right here. Can't really tell. I would say he's wow. A topless, unconscious woman downtown, but it was actually a Dow. So this dude's roaming around with a blow up Dow in public. Now look, this is what's creepy. Creepy. Donald Trump, creepy. Epstein, creepy. I don't know these people. Jim Carrey, kind of creepy nowadays. But this is it. This is the culture. This is what's cracking. Let's go back to May before my time runs out.
Connecting links, because a member of the Knights of Malta, a very strong man in this organization, was behind Strom Thurmond. And Strom Thurmond, of course, was meeting with people who he wanted John Lennon deported, but was meeting with people who had direct links to the murder of John Lennon with Mark David Chapman. And also this person from the Knights of Malta works with Larry McDonald down in DeKalb County, Georgia. DeKalb is where Mark David Chapman came from. This group is a who's who of assassination team members, although they're not identified as such. in this 4-page article, but I have many files and books on each one of these, except with the exception of one or two. Michael Sindona, of course, was a member of this organization, and there's a reference in the footnotes of this one article that the P2 scandal in Italy, where the Italian government was going to be turned into a military dictatorship, such as Hitler and Mussolini had, and was just stopped by a fluke. They refer to it as the Masonic event, but it wasn't just Masonic. It had to do with the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, and the top people involved are members of that organization. John Volpe, who was a cabinet member in the United States and former ambassador to Italy. Italy, of course, this is the headquarters of the Knights of Malta, and Werner Walters. Walters is described as one of the most notorious and vicious members, and he is the fellow who engineered the overthrow of Brazil in 1964, and that happened 1 year after John Kennedy was murdered. Vernon Walters is our roving ambassador to Argentina, to Morocco, to El Salvador, wherever there's trouble, and the trouble goes far right, and there's bloodbaths and coups. That's Vernon Walters. He was acting CIA director at the time of Watergate. He was involved in the direct links to Nazis down in Chile when Allende was murdered and when Orlando Letelier was murdered. That was Vernon Walters' contacts at the time with Nazis. I'd mentioned them on other programs. So these are a few names just mentioned in this one article that really covers a whole era of the organization, such as the Ford. Oh, yes, I forgot. One of the most important members of Knights of Malta and his organization is J. Peter Grace. 8 people on his board, and that's the partner of I.G. Farb and Otto Ambrose. 8 people on the board of the Grace Corporation are members of the Knights of Malta, and also Interlocking Bank in New York City. They trade off the directorships, and then the Flick Group that were prosecuted and named in Nazi Germany and are very successful now, the Flick Steel. They bought 31% of the Grace Company, the Nazis that are back in business over in Germany. J. Peter Grace is a member of the Knight of Malta, the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, not just member of the Catholic Church. So you can see how important this is. On the other side of this tape now, I'll turn it over. We'll do some more on the men behind the Counter-Reformation.
Wow. Oh, girls putting it together.
This is Nate Brussel in Carmel, and I'm discussing an article published by Jonathan Marshall. The author is Kevin Coogan, Coogan, the men behind the Counter-Reformation. There's one other name that I forgot to share with you that is in this article, a member of the Sovereign Military Knights of Malta, and that's John McCone. He was CIA director at the time John Kennedy was assassinated and assisted the Warren Commission to conceal the Nazi connections to the Kennedy assassination. And then he was working for ITT at the time Allende was murdered, and now he's working for Bechtel Corporation along with Caspar Weinberger and the warmongers who can't get enough instruments for war that have been continuing since 1946-47, getting ready for this World War III. Now, this article is particularly important, and I want to mention the importance in light of some of the things that I have said and have not said on these broadcasts for a long time. And whenever there's elections coming up or discussions on who runs the world, people say, what do you think of the Council of Foreign Relations? What do you think of the Trilateral Committee? Why don't you talk about the Trilateral? And those of you who have subscribed to these tapes and know me know that I have done very little on the Trilateral or the Council of Foreign Relations, because my answer has always been very pat to these people. Why are you worried about Nelson and David Rockefeller and not about the Hoover Institute and not about Reinhard Gehlen and not about Project Paperclip? And where do the Nazis fit into this? And also,
boom, didn't she just bust out old Alex Jones? You ain't gonna hear about Reinhard Gehlen on his show. You ain't gonna hear about all these other cats on his show, but you hear about Bilderberger. You hear about who's that? David Rockefeller. I mean, back when he was alive. She busted old boy out to show him for what he really is. He protects the nationalists, but he puts out the Jews, as he calls them. Come on, y'all. It's just a game. You better understand.
If there is a one world, and Odessa is part of that one world, Hitler's organization, if Hitler wanted a 1,000-year Reich, why aren't you addressing yourself to two power groups, struggling for the same thing? Now they keep acting as if Nelson Rockefeller still wants to control the world, and he's been in his coffin a while. In fact, three of the Rockefeller brothers have had a early demise, and the idea of turning the world to the KGB or the communists is part of this attack against the Protestant groups by the very strong military Catholics to break down the English Protestant tradition. Lyndon LaRoche, as I say, who works with these people from Solidarity, always is saying the British are taking over, the British control the world is going, communist, or the British want to control us. What they're trying to do is to break down the Protestantism of the Council of Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission. Not that they're perfect, not that the banks didn't even put in Adolf Hitler. They did, and Allen Dulles worked for them. But Allen Dulles is dead, and John Foster Dulles is dead, and so is Nelson Rockefeller. And this gang that have been running the military branch for 1,000 years are very much alive. They're well financed, and when you read this list, like William and James Buckley and William Casey and James Angleton and Mr. Iacocca and Reinhard Galen, he's passed, but all of his agents are around, and Vernon Walters and John McCone, they're all in power today. They're making all the decisions today. And they're making the decisions of where we're going to die and when we're going to die and how we die and how we're going to pay for it and how we're going to have to sacrifice for this war. This is a holy war. I referred to the way Haig describes himself as the vicar of Washington with his Jesuit priest brother. He pictured him on Time magazine when Reagan was shot as the
vicar of Washington. That's fucked
up. Of Washington. He refers to himself as that. And their crusade to have a war against Russia is a holy war. It is Russia has thrown the church.
Now just remove Russia and replace it with terrorism. The war on terrorism is a holy war. You guys, the game is still going to be played. Yeah, she busted out Russia, so they just took it in another direction. This shit still happened. We're still at war, are we not? It still happened, yo. I wish we would understand, man. We can expose it till the day comes home, but we're never going to expose the real root of the problem, are we? Well, we always got to keep on talking about the fruit of the weed plant, but we're never going to talk about the roots of it.
Church out for all purposes, and this is a crusade, and they will use every country and every area where people are striving to exist and take care of their needs in order to make that war against Russia. They're hell-bent on it. And that's why I've never really sided with those people attacking the Eastern Seaboard organizations as being the sum total of the problem. The problem goes deeper, and it certainly has to do with the members of the military branch of the Vatican who are running the United States today. Now, I'll refer to a few specifics of this article, and as I say, it may take 1 or 2 weeks to share with you, but it's so important, and he mentions these various names. James Angleton was taken into this organization, which existed long before World War I and II. It went on, as I say, for 1,000 years, but as soon as the war was over, we incorporated Hitler's SS men, the Gestapo, into our government and began the intelligence service. It was to become the CIA. So the war was over May 8th, 1945, and December the 27th, 1946, James Angleton, who had so much to do with the Middle East and the Palestine and Vatican, became a member of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, and he was awarded a high honor, one of the highest honors that they had for whatever he had done. I know what he did during World War II. So Angleton, after the OSS, and working with Hitler's intelligence and William Donovan, Wild Bill Donovan, became a high CIA official, and he was the person that recommended that the United States tax dollar be sent to Luigi Guerra for Catholic action. James Angleton headed the Vatican desk. Now it's Mr. Guerra who recently, Gedda, Luigi Guerra, he's the one who recently was talking about the need for a tightening up the liberalism of the church and getting the Protestant.
Well, they fell there, didn't they? Tightening up the liberalism of the church. Oh my God, yeah, she was on point. But the point is, yeah, all the research she had, all the academics she knew, didn't amount to a hill of beans as far as the way that this planet is being ruled, as far as the direction of humanity is. We all know this to be true because we had the benefit of time and seeing the difference between 1982 and 2019. If you guys keep on thinking that these people are playing a game, and keep on thinking that, oh no, the next generation of them will forsake this evil, wicked plan, then you're fooling yourself. And not only are you fooling yourself, you're putting your children and your grandchildren and their grandchildren, everybody that you know and love, in grave peril and jeopardy by not uniting and facing the common problem and the common threat we all share. Because if you listen to the other show the other day, man, broke down about the sterilization. Old boy was talking about sterilization. And that was in 1979, a couple years before. The poor white folks, you're marked for deletion. All black folks, you're marked for deletion. Poor Asian folks, you're marked for deletion. All Latinos, you're marked for deletion. Poor Jews, small hats, you're marked for deletions. The rich ones, they're not. India, once again, the poor Indians, you're marked for deletions. The rich ones, you're not. On that note, I will be ending this broadcast today from our Missouri studios. I have a couple of errands I have to run. Perhaps I will try to crank up something this afternoon, hopefully. Please join me. Untouchable Brother Cook, welcome to the show. That's where we're ending it. But no, this show has really been insightful. It's been informative. A lot of information there that Sister Mae Brussel was speaking upon. All right. She did die in October 3rd, 1988. These numbers do mean something. 88. All right. So, with that being said, live your life of integrity without hate, envy, or greed. As always, brothers and sisters, I ask you, please be kinder to each other. Peace and power. I'm out.